I'm going to now hand over to Frederic Cherqui to be the chair of this France Hub. So thank you so much, Frederic.
Thank you very much, Katherine. Hi, everybody. It is my pleasure to share this short session live from France. And I would like to thank the Australian Embassy in France to welcome us. I would like now to let Miss Megan Anderson, who is Deputy Head of Mission and Australian Ambassador to UNESCO, to open this session.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Firstly, good evening to everyone in Australia, and thank you for sticking around for this part of the session. We can see some of you on the screen, and it's lovely to have you with us. Good morning to colleagues here in Paris as well, and to those joining online. It's exciting for me. I've been watching the development of the AFRAN Hub over the last couple of years, and certainly since the launch of the French Hub here in France in 2021. And it's a pleasure to see you. I think some of you I've met before in various functions that you'll speak about later. But it's a pleasure to see you in person, online, and hopefully in the future back in Australia when I'm there in the future as well. As Frederic mentioned, I am Australia's ambassador to UNESCO and also our deputy head of mission here, so deputy ambassador here in France. I want to, at the start of the meeting, just pay my respects to Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I want to acknowledge the land on which you're meeting in Australia, and acknowledge here in France our work with Australian Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to showcase Australia overseas, and also to work on the very real challenges and changes that we are facing in our own country to make sure that we have the future that we all deserve. So my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples online and in various rooms on this session today. I also want to say thank you very much to Professor Katherine Daniell there in Melbourne, and also to Frederic Cherqui, AFRAN French Hub President here in Paris. I'm conscious that Ambassador Bird and Ambassador Thibault spoke to you at the top of the day in video messages, and I don't want to kind of rehash what they said, but just to say that we at the Embassy are extremely pleased with the kind of kick-off events we've had already through Australia Now. We see this relationship as part of the broad and flourishing series of opportunities that exist between Australia and France. We have a long history. When I meet my colleagues here in France, they remind me of many of the early explorers from France who went to Australia, in fact, on research missions, on scientific missions, exchanging, talking, taking ideas, thoughts, and knowledge from one side of the planet to the other. And that is very much what this network is about as well. It's about building from those early relationships, about building also into the future. I know today we've got some very interesting sessions on climate adaptation, on hydrogen, Earth observation. I won't go into them all. You're doing them, but it strikes me that from those early beginnings right up until now, but certainly into the future, there are areas where both Australia and France have particular knowledge and perspectives that's different but complementary. And it's a real pleasure to see those complementary perspectives coming together in the research network. Australia and France are both countries that value research. I think you know that our Prime Minister, Mr. Albanese, was here on the 1st of July, and he met with President Macron. And certainly some of the things that they discussed were around that research and education space. So I am looking forward to even more opportunities in our bilateral relationship in the coming months and years as we grow and develop that relationship as well. So I don't want to say too much more, except to say early beginnings, great basis upon which to start. A pleasure to meet you all. I think I can see and feel every time I hear something coming through from the network that there's more and more energy there and opportunity. Here at the Embassy, we absolutely rest ready to support the growth and flourishing of this particular network. I'm very pleased that Deciana, who's both our first secretary in the bilateral mission and also my deputy at UNESCO, is able to participate in the hub as well and kind of engage with us on behalf of the Embassy. So I want to say thank you, welcome to everyone, and I wish you very well in this next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Megan Anderson, for this very inspiring speech. Maybe before going to the presentation of the French Hub, we can take some time to have a roundtable and present each other. I think it could be good to see who's on this side. We are not so many, so should be okay on our side.
Hi, I'm Deciana Speckmann. I'm First Secretary at the Embassy.
I'm Andy Shepherd. I'm a Chief Research Scientist at CSIRO in Biosecurity, and I also look after CSIRO's laboratory in Montpellier in France.
Hi, so my name is Arnaud Prozo, and I'm a researcher at INRIA in Bordeaux.
Hi, I'm Vittorio Sansalone, Professor in Mechanics and Engineering at University Paris-Est.
Good morning, I'm Megan Anderson. You just heard me.
I'm Fiona Hurry. I'm policy intern at the Embassy.
Good morning, I'm Marie Baudinier. I come from INRA in Nantes, in France.
And so my name is Frederic Cherqui. I think you now know it. I would like to apologize for some other members of the French Hub that were either blocked because of the strike or because of the COVID. So we are a little less than what we expected, but we made it. Let me share with you some slides to present the French Hub. Normally, you should see it from your side. Okay, so a very quick presentation to discuss about the French Hub that has been created not so long ago. So the AFRAN has already quite a lot of hubs in the different areas of Australia and Polynesia. And one hub was missing in France. And so we started to work on that maybe 1 year and a half ago. And we made a survey about our French member of the AFRAN Association. We estimate that we have around 150 to 200 members in France. Most of them are from universities or research institutes, and then governmental agencies, engineering school or association. And from the survey, we saw that 80%, big number of these members have already active collaboration with colleagues in Australia. And most of the collaboration are research oriented. So from this point and from some other question that we ask on the survey, we work on the objective of the French Hub. And the main objective is to enhance collaboration to and from France. The second objective that we are trying to achieve is also to build a French community of the AFRAN. And for that, we have started to initiate activities to show the presence of the French Hub through webinar, seminar, and we're trying to start project. And one of the main focus is also to connect researchers and industry partners, and also help to identify fund to fund action for collaboration with Australia. We have started the hub in January 22, and these are all the members of the hub. So most of us are here in France, and very close to you, there is Jean-François Oquette. Maybe Jean-François, you can raise your hand. Yes, okay. And Thierry Corrège, I think is also there. Yes, perfect. I see you. And so here today, Marie is here, and Jean-Michel Tanguy is not here because he's traveling abroad. Vincent is, I think, ill. Arnaud is here, Deciana is here. Jean-Louis had the COVID, so couldn't come. Vittorio is here, and Laurent is also traveling. So we are quite a good and active hub. And so far, for the first year of the French hub, we have, this is a synthesis of some activities that we have. You have the web page of the French hub if you want to know more about us and the activities. We had 7 board meetings, and this is the 8th board meeting that we will have just after this meeting. We have established strong links with both embassies, and especially with the Australian embassy, with the Australia Now program. And we have been partners to 2 exhibitions, 1 summer school, 1 hybrid symposium, and 3 webinar or online conferences for this year. And you have some image of the different actions that we partnered. I don't want to speak too much. Quick overview of the French hub. You have our name. Jean-François and Thierry are with you in the room, so feel free to ask them questions about our hub, how you can connect with us, and we will be really happy to discuss with you. Thank you very much.
Hi. Yeah, I have a question because we were discussing with a colleague just a few minutes ago, and he wants to bring a French student to Australia for 6 months because that's the way we do internships in France, you know, like 6 months. And he asked me, he said, well, there's a visa problem. We're not sure we can have a proper visa for a French student to come to Australia for 6 months. So that's something I'm asking Deciana and everybody at the embassy. Is there a proper visa? And if not, can you do something for us? Because we're sending Australian students to France. We're spending a lot of money at the embassy to send Australian students to France. And it's very successful. Students are very happy. And I think French students will also be very happy to come to Australia to learn about the country, to work here and so on, to do some internship here. But if they cannot have the proper visa, of course, that's the main problem to start with. So that's one area where the Australian government can help us probably. So maybe there's a proper visa, but we don't know about it. But if there isn't, can you help us?
I had a student a long time ago, a French student working in Australia, maybe for a shorter period, and he used the working holiday visa.
For 6 months, you can.
Yeah, 6 months could be. I think the working holiday could be an option. It's not so difficult to obtain, and you're allowed to work, I think, 6 months in a.
Yeah. There's an age limit, but otherwise.
Yeah, there is an age limit. So this could be an option. I don't want if you maybe you want to.
Perhaps it might be easier for everyone. Perhaps if we can get some information on the different visa options that might be interesting to you. I think you're right. Student visas certainly are possible. In Australia, we have a lot of students, as many of you know, working at Swinburne University and studying in various other universities. But quite right, we do have a working holiday program with Australia and France as well. In fact, France is one of our biggest uptakes, and it's been our longest relationship, as we've had many thousands of people come to Australia from France on that program. So it kind of depends on individuals and how much kind of work versus study they're doing in their visit to Australia as well. But what we'll do is get you the right kind of information and links from our colleagues in the Department of Immigration and Home Affairs, and share that with you, Frederic, for sharing onto the network.
Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for that. There you go. Amazing collaboration happening right here. All right. Any other questions for Frederic and the French Hub board? No. In that case, I might pass back to you, Frederic, for the next presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now I will give the floor to Ms. Deciana Speckmann, First Secretary of the Embassy of Australia in France, to discuss about Australia's priority for science collaboration in France. And I will share the screen. Can you use the arrows?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Frederic, and welcome everybody. So I'd like to use this opportunity to present to you Australia's priorities for science collaboration with France. So I'll focus on three areas. Australia's government priorities for science and innovation. I'll go in a little bit about Australia-France collaboration, although Megan and others and the ambassador also covered that off pretty well, and Frederic just now as well in their presentations. And then finally, I'll go into some options for research funding mechanisms. Unfortunately, my colleague Sarah Brown, who's our Science and Innovation Councillor in Brussels, couldn't join me for this session, but I'll try and cover off on all these issues as best as I can. So let me start. I'll start by saying that Australia is recognised globally for its high quality research. Despite only having 0.3% of the world's population, Australia contributes to over 4% of the world research publications in 2021. Sorry. No problem. Almost half of our workforce has a tertiary qualification. The Australian government recognises the vital role new knowledge and innovation plays in the economic, cultural and social advancement of a nation, and is committed to supporting science, research and innovation to drive productivity and growth. Scientific collaboration between like-minded partners has become even more important, as demonstrated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the impacts of Russia's war on Ukraine. We welcome international collaboration, and more than half of Australia's scientific publications have international contributors. Now, these are our new Ministers for Industry and Science and our Minister for Education. They were sworn in on the 1st of June. Both of these ministers have big plans for Australia's science, research and innovation efforts, and they're putting in place new programs and undertaking a range of important reviews and consultations. Here's a short summary, I guess, of Australia's priorities. Australian government is strengthening the science and innovation system through a refresh of the national science and research priorities, as well as a national science statement. The Australian government is establishing the National Reconstruction Fund and the University Research Commercialisation and Translation Program, Australia's Economic Accelerator. We're developing strategies for critical technologies, and there's a strong focus on science diplomacy in Australia's region, while also seeking to work with key partners around the world like France. And our priorities also include developing an Australian Universities Accord, reviewing the Australian Research Council to reconsider its role and purpose, investing in our human capital through work under the Digital and Tech Skills Compact Working Group, and reviewing existing government programs to support greater diversity in Australian science and technology sectors. Now, Minister Cusack has asked Australia's Chief Scientist, Dr. Kath Foley, to lead the development of the refreshed and renewed National Science and Research Priorities and National Science Statement. And this slide outlines what the refresh will encompass. So it'll help develop national policy frameworks, it will better align efforts and investment in science, and it will include extensive consultation with science, research and industry stakeholders. It's important to note that the science statement also outlines Australia's international science collaboration and objectives. This work is expected to be finalised by September 2023. Implementation of the $15 billion National Reconstruction Fund is a key priority of the government. It will help drive investment in projects that will rebuild Australia's investment base, boost regional economic development, and revive our ability to make world-class products. It will also be a major lever in driving towards the government's objective to reach net zero economy, and it will invest across 7 priority areas of the economy, and you can see them listed there on the slide. The NRF will be modelled on the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, the CEFC, and it will use a combination of loans, equity and guarantees. The Australian government introduced legislation to Parliament for the NRF last week, and it has also begun public consultation to define the scope of the 7 priority areas for investment and how the fund will make investment decisions. And the new University Research Commercialisation Program, the Australia's Economic Accelerator, will also be targeted at these priority areas. It will fund translational research in universities from early stage research into a product that shows viability for industry partnership and investment. The program will have a fast rail approach with projects progressing based on continued success and achieving key milestones. Now, the NRF and the Australia's Economic Accelerator will add to existing significant investments for technology and innovation to support the transition to a net zero economy. And here on this slide, you see two of those, ARENA and the CEFC. ARENA is focused on innovation investment, supporting pilot, demonstration and pre-commercial renewable energy technologies and projects across sectors. The government has expanded ARENA's mandate to support energy efficiency and electrification technologies that can reduce emissions. Its new investment plan was released earlier in October this year. And as a specialist investor and a world-leading example of a green bank, the CEFC supports investment across solar energy storage, bioenergy and wind. And the CEFC is currently celebrating 10 years of investment in Australia's transition to net zero emissions. Now, one thing I wanted to particularly highlight is diversity in STEM. Minister Husic announced earlier this year that there would be a review of the government's initiatives, which is expected to make recommendations on concrete measures to attract, promote and retain diverse groups into the STEM workforce to maximise innovation, creativity, leadership and competitiveness. The expert panel for the review was announced recently, along with the reappointment of Australia's inaugural Women in STEM Ambassador, Professor Lisa Harvey-Smith. Professor Smith has been an excellent leader within the STEM sector and will continue to provide expert advice and advocacy and advocate the case for change. And she will also undertake important research to support the review. And as we highlighted in the presentation last year, Australia had a long-standing focus on increasing gender equality in STEM, including through a range of investments under the Women in STEM and Entrepreneurship activities and the release of the Advanced Women in STEM Strategy and Women in STEM Decadal Plan. The review is now a chance to step back and make sure that what we're doing is leading to real change. Okay, so now I'll just move on to the second part of the presentation, which is more focused on the Australia-France collaboration. This is actually a slide that we used last year as well. It's a summary about the steps that we've gone through over the years. So the bilateral science relationship is underpinned by the Australia-France Scientific and Technology Agreement from 1998. Then there was the Joint Statement of Strategic Partnership signed in 2012. That was reinforced by regular joint science and innovation meetings between Australia and France. And we had, I think, the second joint meeting in 2019. And the next one is due to be hosted in France in the first half of 2023 in person. And then following the visit to France by Prime Minister Albanese in July, we are developing a roadmap to relaunch the bilateral relationship. And that's the last bullet, which I obviously didn't include in the presentation last year. And this roadmap will be focused on three pillars: security, resilience, and climate, as well as culture and innovation. Now, this roadmap will not have direct implications for the roadmap that already exists, although it will probably have crossovers. Pillars 2 and 3 are obvious areas, but also Pillar 1. And it will probably also influence the agenda for the next joint science and innovation meeting. So hopefully at our next meeting, we'll have a lot more detail to share with you on that roadmap. So this is the roadmap that we already have. It was signed in April 2021. And under this roadmap, both countries commit to advancing gender equity in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we agree to support areas of mutual interest across 5 thematic areas: energy, materials and mining, climate and the environment, health, industry 4.0, and space and earth observations. Now, bilateral collaboration has gone really well in the last year. Here are just some examples. I won't go into all of them, but our ties certainly have continued to grow under areas identified in the roadmap, even through difficult times. CNRS obviously opened an office in Melbourne. Then we had the launch of Crossing International Research Laboratory in South Australia last year. We had the establishment of the French chapter of AFRAN a year ago. In September this year, we had a large Australian contingent participate in the International Astronautical Congress here in Paris, which led to the happy event of Sydney being selected to host the IAC in 2025. There were also some really good discussions at that meeting between Australian Space Agency and CNES about areas of future collaboration. In October, we also welcomed a delegation to Paris led by CSIRO focused on hydrogen. And we had a critical minerals delegation here last month from both the Critical Minerals Office, as well as Geoscience Australia and DFAT, as well as Austrade. So there's been a lot happening. At the embassy, we hosted the launch of the AFRAN initiative, which is a $15.7 million doctoral training network between Australia and France. And we signed a cooperation agreement between the SKA Observatory and CNRS. So these are just some examples of all the things that have happened just in the last year. Now, Frederic already elaborated on some of the activities that we undertook under Australia Now, and quite a few of these activities were done in collaboration with the France Hub of AFRAN. So we had, for instance, a virtual reality screening of a film Beyond the Milky Way, an event to promote women in STEM, and a webinar on metrology for water systems. Those were done together with the AFRAN Hub. And here is, I guess, the full, almost a full list of all the activities related to science and innovation that we undertook here at the embassy under Australia Now. So these examples really show that our researcher-to-researcher collaborations are strong and comprehensive, and that they cover a range of issues and sectors, including energy, climate, space, AI, defence, health, Antarctic science, oceanography, etc. So let's move into just a few stats here. I won't read these all out, but basically these statistics show how far advanced Australia-France research cooperation is. And let me now move into the third and final part of my presentation, which goes more into research funding that is available. So Australia's main research funding agencies provide significant support for international collaboration. The ARC provides a variety of opportunities to support international research collaboration in all disciplines, and its schemes support fundamental research, fellowships, and collaborative research with industry, government, and the community. All ARC funding schemes are open to international researchers, provided applications are made through an eligible Australian institution. The next one, the National Health and Medical Research Council, supports health and medical research across the full spectrum of health and medical research, from basic science through to clinical, public health and health services research. The NHMRC supports international engagement through a number of mechanisms. And then the MRFF has provided support for Australian researchers to participate in high-quality international collaborative clinical trials. The MRFF's second 10-year investment plan was released in September 2022, and it outlines 21 initiatives under 4 themes: patients, research missions, researchers, and research translation. Now, to illustrate this with a few more statistics, in 2021, the ARC supported 336 new and ongoing research projects that involved collaboration with France. And in 2021, the NHMRC allocated a total of $4.5 million on 19 projects that included collaboration with France. I won't go into all the detail here. Now, here are just some other partners for collaboration and funding. Again, I won't read it all out, but we can certainly share these slides with you afterwards for your reference. So now, while this publication is out of date in regards to the current Australian government policy framework that I've outlined today, the Partnering with Australia booklet still gives a good sense of the key organisations in Australia's science, research and innovation system. Given the significant number of reviews and policy work, I don't think it will be updated until the end of next year. but we will let you know when it is updated. So you can still find this booklet online, and the link's just at the bottom, and we'll let you know when we have an update. Finally, there are opportunities to collaborate under the EU's Horizon Europe programme. Australia is participating in Horizon Europe as a third country participant, as it did under Horizon 2020, with many successful scientific collaborations. Participation is generally self-funded or enabled through grants for related research. The NHMRC EU Collaborative Research Grant Scheme provides a contribution to support Australian researchers participating in successful applications in nominated Horizon Europe calls. The ARC and NHMRC have implementing arrangements with the European Research Council to support Australian researchers wishing to collaborate with European researchers. And finally, support for Australian participation can be provided through Euraccess, Researchers in Motion. It's a European Commission funded service that delivers information and support services across European research careers and international collaboration opportunities. Euraccess Australia and New Zealand was launched in Australia in January 2020, and it includes support for Australians wishing to participate in Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe framework programs. So that was it. I know that was a lot of ground to cover in a fairly short time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to have a go at answering them, and otherwise I will happily refer it to our expert in Brussels and get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deciana. I think we understand better now the research and funding priorities. And I have the feeling that there are opportunities for all of us to really work together on our future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there some question from Melbourne?
Any quick questions on this side? Yes, we have one from Jean-François.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I'm here in Australia because there is a strong wish of INRA, the French National Institute of Research on Agriculture, Food and the Environment, to increase collaboration with key partners in Australia. So we met so far the CSIRO, Australian National University, Queensland University, and I will discuss tomorrow with Melbourne University. And we would like to increase our collaboration with these key partners. And we have tools for that. We have the joint linkage call program. And also we have the possibility to develop international associated laboratories. So there is an existing joint linkage program with CSIRO, and we would like to develop international associated laboratories with the partners I mentioned before, ANU, Melbourne, Queensland, and the CSIRO as well. And with the vice president of INRA, who visited with me these key partners last week, we identified some key topics on which we may collaborate, and we may prepare some international associated laboratories. And there is a wish of our president, our CEO of INRA, to visit Australia, probably early February, I'm not sure yet, but to sign some key agreements, new agreements with the key partners of Australia I just mentioned. So again, to conclude, there is a strong wish of INRA to collaborate with key partners in Australia. Thanks.
Hi, it's Thierry again. I'm going to be blunt, sorry. I shouldn't be because I work in an embassy, but...
J'adore.
Yeah, two things I want to say. First, thanks, Deciana, for your presentation. You presented some funding sources, but there's still no joint call for application between Australia and France. Sorry to say. And we are preparing the next joint science innovation meeting. You talked about it. So we really have to work together and with the ministries in France, the departments in Australia, to try to set up a joint call for application between ARC, for example, and ANR in France. That would be the basic thing to do. Because at the moment, yeah, you said ARC, people can apply and there's whatever 100 millions going for research, collaborative research with France, but the French have to find their own money when the Australians find their own money. There's no joint call for application, and that's really missing. When you apply at the same time and you get the money at the same time, that's where it really works. Otherwise, the Australian will get the money and the French will get the money maybe a year or 2 years later, or it will be the opposite. And as long as we don't have a joint call for application, we won't take off. That's the first thing I want to say. Second thing is Horizon Europe. New Zealand has just joined Horizon Europe. I think it's time for Australia to do it. So try to push your ministers and so on. And they always said, when I talk to the departments in Australia, they tell me, if we put a dollar, we want $1 back. Sorry to say, that's very narrow-minded point of view. You will get your money back maybe in 5 or 10 years. But if we've done that in Europe, it's for a purpose. It really works, and it's really beneficial for everybody. Even if we put more money than we get back in 1 year, in the long run, it's beneficial. So I think there's a message to put forward towards the ministries or the departments, sorry, in Australia, that joining Horizon Europe as a full member would really be beneficial for collaboration, not only with France, but with all the countries in Europe. That's all I want to say. I've been blunt. You can fire me. Whoever can fire me from the French embassy, but I think it's some messages that we have to push to the politicians.
Thierry, just behind you, there's another question as well.
Maybe Deciana wanted to say.
Yeah, sorry, I'm happy to just a very quick response to all that. And yes, we're very aware, thank you very much for about those issues. And certainly now that we have a new government, of course, you know, anything's open for discussion, and there's certainly a review happening at the moment, and we will see what comes out of that. But it is also a fact that Australia and France have very different models and ways to engage with research funding, and so linking the two up and having these joint calls is complicated and difficult. So we do have a broader funding mechanisms focused on certain priorities, and changing the whole system to match the French way of providing funding is just tricky. But certainly your comments are noted, and I do know that my colleagues in Brussels, Sarah is also very aware of this and feeds it back as well. But we will keep you posted on developments of the review and what comes out of that. And also there are also opportunities for smaller scale funding opportunities through individual universities as well. I wanted to just mention that too. And when it comes to Horizon Europe, so Australia is considering the association model provided by the Commission, and we're monitoring how the discussions with other countries are progressing. And I also do know that the new government is very interested in this mechanism and looking at it actively. So again, it's too early to give you concrete answers to your questions, but your comments are noted, and I'll pass them back to Sarah and the Department of Innovation as well. Thank you.
No, just to say, if we can't be frank and fearless in the university environment, where can we be? So, you know, that's absolutely the point of these networks, that we can share ideas, and you can let us know. As Deciana said, sometimes there's challenges in that, but if we sometimes don't know what the challenges are, we can't even start to unpick them. So I would only encourage everyone, to those coordinating, to be energetic and do share the concerns you have. Separately, I also just wanted to welcome the comments from colleagues from INRA down in Melbourne. That's very exciting. I as an alumni of the University of Queensland, I'm particularly excited to see University of Queensland in that mix, and great to hear that your president will be down. We did have our head of the Department of Agriculture here in France a couple of weeks ago, and our trade minister was here this week and in fact met the Minister for Agriculture, French Minister for Agriculture on Monday evening. So there's no doubt that those discussions and opportunities in the agriculture sector and that food security space are ongoing. And it's exciting to hear at the research level as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we are a little off time. Maybe I saw a hand rising for a short comment question.
I just want to add to that comment. There is Karen Hapgood on the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research here at Swinburne. There is a mystery fund that the government has announced but not provided any detail, which I've been dying since April to find out. It's called the Global Science and Technology Diplomacy Fund. And it's $18.2 million to collaborate internationally, but the details are unknown. So it's being run by two learned academies here, science and technology, and there may be a different funding model. But I just thought I'd throw that into the conversation. That could be a place. There's no information beyond the press release at this point. I'm looking forward to those details, but it might have an opportunity to have joint calls for funding and collaboration through that fund when it's released. So I just thought I'd flag that because I've been watching that with refreshing the page, looking for the update. And I think it will be a 2023 opportunity at this stage. So something to look out for all of the network AFRAN researchers here today. That's my comments.
Yeah, look, and thank you for your patience. And I do, I'm sorry to say, please be patient for a little bit longer. It is still definitely being considered by the government, this fund, and I know there's been high expectations for it. I mean, it was announced in the 2021-2022 budget, and has an allocation of $60 million, annual allocation of $10 million. It includes a new flexible strategic element to support Australian researchers to address significant challenges in priority research areas with priority partners. And France was identified as a partner of interest number 2 of the 4 priority themes. So that was advanced manufacturing and as well as AI and quantum computing. But again, unfortunately, because new government in place, strategic review happening at the moment, we just have to be a bit more patient to see what rolls out of that. But again, very, very aware. We'll let you know as soon as we find out more.
Great, thank you.
Did you want to say anything, Megan?
I just wanted to say absolutely keep refreshing for 2023. I hope that that's not the only opportunity that we see coming up on your screens. And as announcements come through that are specific, particularly in some of the sectors that you've been talking about today, we'll make sure that we send them through to the network as well.
Thank you very much.
Frederic, we do have just one very short question online. Is that right, Paul?
Yes. So it's more a comment. It's actually from David Ness from Uni SA. So David says, my university, Uni SA, is grateful for AFRAN's support for cooperation with France via Sciences PO on sufficiency, which seems much discussed in France, but not yet in Australia. We're arranging a hybrid international conference around the end of March in 2023, and we'll value support of the France Hub and hope to keep in contact.
Okay, great. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Frederic. Did you want to close up? Otherwise, I'm happy to also say thank you so much to Megan, Deciana, and Frederic, and the whole AFRAN France board for having this session with us. I think it's a real delight that it is taken off so well, and that we're sort of beginning the real binational way of working in AFRAN. It's a very exciting thing, and it really is a new phase for the association. So thank you all so much for being together. Thank you for the Australian Embassy in France for hosting you. I know that's it's a big thing to do, and we're very grateful.